Welcome to the very first PowerPoint presentation on how to play Diaboromon, a swarming deck that will never die. Diaboromon as a deck has one main identity, and that is to play as many tokens as possible and then overwhelm their opponent with the resources they gain from playing all those tokens. Whether it be memory gains, free evolves, or just plain beating the hell out of their opponents by the army of tokens that they just made. And that's it. That's the identity. That's the entire thing Diaboromon make, and that's the entire thing Diaboromon will do from now until the end of time, making tokens. The reason why I chose this deck specifically is because BT-24 has two new support, and that is Keramon X and Diaboromon X. And both of these cards can be summed up with one word: free. As Keramon X plays token for free and also evolve from for free from Keramon, which which makes the deck very fast. This is due to the number of cards that interact with Diaboromon token that, that the deck has that the deck has, which needs you to usually play the Diaboromon first so they can gain those effects later. But with Keramon X, that's no longer the case since you can just use the token that it makes for more plays faster. And Diaboromon X is also a very good boss, as it evolves from a Diaboromon you have and has the keyword of Overclock, which means that you can attack immediately after, even if your memory passes to the opponent. This is often needed for Diaboromon as the deck often lacks a one finisher. A finisher we needed so bad, since back then, before Diaboromon X, there are some people that plays Zit Millennium, which also has Overclock that can deal a token to attack. But unlike Zit Millennium, who doesn't provide anything else other than just a free attacker, Diaboromon X also just plays a Diaboromon for free. Yes, for free, either from your hand or below its evolution source, which you will always do since the value from it is just too big, and the evolution cost for evolving from level 5 for Diaboromon X is just a bit too much that you might as well just evolve it from a level 6 Diaboromon instead. Now, the gameplay for the deck is pretty straightforward. It plays like many other Digimon decks that focus on climbing from level 3 to level 6. And so your move target will be level 3, which is either a Keramon, whether how many Keramons do you run, and if you can, also a Keramon X, and then a level 4, and then a training. And again, some decks, especially those that plays level 7, whether it be a Liberator deck or Omnimon, you'd want to keep at least one BT-5 Armageddon. Also, due to the new support from BT-24, you can make Diaboromon on turn 2 with Training and Infermon X6 of Infermon EX6, where on turn 1, you can just hatch your Sumemon, evolve into a Keramon inbreeding, and then evolve into Keramon X inbreeding again, and then play Defense Training to add a card that you needed from the listed cards below that you might not have yet. And then on turn 2, you move Keramon X as Keramon X has the word of when moving, which lets you play a token immediately for free, and then use the training to evolve into into Kurisarimon for free. And then whether or not you play the Kuris, and depending on the Kurisarimon you have, you can either play Arata or use it later to gain memory from playing many number of Diaboromon token. And then after you play the Arata or just evolve to a level 4, you can then play Parabolic Junk on the Diaboromon token that the Keramon X generated. And then evolve the Kurisarimon into Infermon EX6, which will then destroy Diaboromon X, the Diaboromon token with the Parabolic Junk buff, which will then let you evolve into a Diaboromon for measly one cost. After that, if you play the BT5 Arata from Okuri Sarimon, then you will get at least two tokens, one from the Diaboromon and one from the Arata. And if you play it with a BT-5 Kurisarimon, then you will also give those token rush. And if you evolve into BT-22 Diaboromon, you will then have 4 checks with Diaboromon itself and the 3 tokens that you have generated. And finally, because we still have 0 memory left, you can evolve the Diaboromon into Diaboromon X, which will then overclock and then place a Diaboromon from its revolution sources. Now, mind you, this is possible to happen with your opponent only giving you one memory, which is pretty crack for the deck. Consi- Considering that back then you need to wait for a bit, since you need to evolve to Diaboromon via paying the cost, via paying the 3 cost, which is some which means that you usually pass the turn on Diaboromon and just does nothing. But now you can just attack on turn 2, and if you have rushes on the tokens, you can possibly just check 5 by turn 2, which is pretty unheard of for a Diaboromon deck. However, even if you don't have the crazy opener like this, you can just evolve into you can just evolve into Diaboromon EX6 if you don't open the parabolic junk, or if you just don't have any number of any cards here, you can just simply play like a normal deck and then bide your time to set up and then evolve into a Diaboromon on a later turn to start gaining tempo and board control. Now, if you somehow thinks that Diaboromon is a very annoying deck to deal with, then know that Diaboromon still doesn't. Then you should know that Diaboromon still has the same problem it has back then. That is, if you activate a card that locks the Diaboromon player plays by effect, then the Diaboromon player just simply pass their turn usually. Even even to the point that they would like evolve in the breeding until level 5 and then play something like training or a tamer just to pass their turn without doing anything to their board, simply because all of the Diaboromon tokens that they play is an effect to be play a Digimon to play a Digimon. And the biggest hater for cards that, for placement by effect is Crimson Blaze, which red decks often play these days due to the number of swarming decks that the meta has right now, whether it be Shudie or Jesmon, which is the two most played decks that I've known. Not only that, you can also play cards that just hate swarming, whether it be the number of cards that I've listed or ones that I don't. Special mention goes to Omnimon Ace, as it's a very fitting counter to Diaboromon. However, if you have no access to all of this counter, then you should know that Diaboromon is very hard to. Diaboromon deck is having a problem in trying to remake their stacks, as usually as you've seen before on the previous slides, in that Diaboromon will always move uh, from the breeding and then start climbing into their megas. Usually, if you remove that stacks, then they no longer have any Digimon in the breeding, and so they need to have to spend a turn to remake their stacks. And right now, one turn is a very big gap to play catch up, which is something that a lot of decks that right now can just capitalize on. In conclusion, Diaboromon is a menace and you should play it. Due to the new Diaboromon X, the Digivolving up to the number of your Digimon in play, you can say something like the Digivolve 13 to your opponent. Digital Gate closed.